Excuse me, sir. Would you like another hot take?
Yeah, definitely. Keep them coming.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you had a great week last week. The Liverpool team got their first championship to help Klopp on his way out. You know, Jordan just keeps messing up the hot takes, and it's okay because, well, he cheers for Chelsea. I'm predicting that Liverpool will win at least one more championship this season. Mark it down. I really think it'll be close to two more, but for sure at least one more championship. Next, the Dallas Mavericks. After the trades they made at the deadline, they kind of figured out how to stop all the bleeding defensively, and getting rid of Grant Williams seemed to really just help the team come together. They just recently won 7 in a row. The loss on Sunday, even though it wasn't that great, I think a lot of that was coaching. Jason Kidd sometimes just does not make the best decisions as a coach. But all this to say, the Mavericks are legitimate Western Conference finalist teams. I think they have a really good chance to be one of the teams that'll be in the Western Conference finals and play in the NBA championship. And finally, Austin Eckler. He did not receive the franchise tag. Actually, no running backs did. And last season, he was one of the big running backs that got together on that conference call trying to demand more money. Between his declining performance last season, his age, if he actually looks to have a contract, let's say $15 million for 3 years, I don't see Eckler signing anywhere. So that is my last hot take, is that Austin Eckler will not sign this offseason. Maybe after the season starts and some people get banged up or hurt, he might sign. But I do not predict Austin Eckler will be on a team whenever training camp starts.
My hot takes are just not hitting this year, but we're going to keep throwing them out there. So Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are not going to win the MLS Cup this year. Messi joined late last year, and they made a push for it, fell just short of the playoffs. Messi recruited a bunch of friends over last season and this offseason. Suarez is there, Busquets, so we'll see how they do, but I do not think they're going to win the MLS Cup this year. And I know I'm a little salty from the weekend when Chelsea lost to Liverpool, but I'm going to say Liverpool does not win another trophy this year. I said they were going to go trophyless, but now I'm clinging to they're going to go trophyless the rest of the year. I sure hope so. I hate them.
Nice takes, Jordan. Now let's keep the hot takes coming, starting with Rampage Poker will make a big comeback. Rampage, known as for his big bluffs and high-variance style of play on the felt, and it's been news on his channel that he's going through a big downswing to start 2024. But I think Rampage has proven himself to be an elite tournament poker player, and that if he reins in some of his more creative bluffs, that he'll start to get paid off for the image that he has and make his money back. Rampage is one of the most entertaining poker vloggers there is, and I'm rooting for him to make a big comeback. The Jets should sign Mike Evans. Can you imagine how loaded this team would be with that great defense that they already have if they had a healthy Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Evans? I think they would immediately skyrocket to the odds-on favorite to win the AFC East, and they would be one of the toughest teams to knock out in the playoffs and could win a Super Bowl with that kind of roster. So if I'm the Jets, I do whatever it takes to get Mike Evans. And finally, I think Ohio State will win the national championship in college football in 2024. Their team is absolutely stacked on paper, and Ryan Day's nemesis, Jim Harbaugh, just moved to the NFL. So I think this is the year the Buckeyes get over the hump and beat Michigan and get back into the college football playoffs. And when they do that, I think the stars will align and that they will win the national championship.
My hot take is that once the Combine and NFL Draft happen and the rookies all get a team, most of them are going to become pretty undesirable. Right now, guys like Malik Neighbors and Romeo Dunze look extremely attractive for fantasy purposes, but just think back to last year when Quentin Johnson got taken by the Chargers, or Zach Charbonnet got taken by the Seahawks, or Kendre Miller got taken by the Saints. A lot of these very talented players will get buried on teams where their opportunities will be limited, or they might get a bad coach with bad play calling. But I think that a lot of them will have much lower value than their perceived value is at the time being. So I wouldn't be looking to give up proven stud running backs and receivers for draft picks this year, unless you can get the 1.1. We all know what's happening there. Everyone else is not safe as of right now. That's my hot take.
This is a poker hand I played at 1-2 at TCH Austin. Two players limped to me and I raised to $20 in the low jack with black nines. The hijack called and both limpers called as well, so we're off to a flop with about $80 in the middle. The flop comes 10-4-4, and when it checks to me, I decide to check as this board's going to favor my opponents more than me, as I'm not going to have many 4s here and all of my opponents could have a 10, as there's a lot of hands with a 10 in them that would call me pre-flop. So I decide to check, and the hijack checks behind me as well, so we're off to a turn which comes in 8. Now the first limper leads for 25, the second limper folds, and when it gets to me, I decide to call here, as he could be value betting an 8, or worse hands than that, maybe he even has some random bluffs as well. So I call, and the hijack folds behind me, so it's a pretty perfect setup, as we go to a river, which comes the king of clubs, and at this point, he decides to bet for 25 again. It's kind of weird, because the king should favor me more than him, but I think about it for 30 seconds. I don't think I need to turn my hand into a bluff. I think that I'm getting such a good price to call here, over 6-1, that I don't need to be good that often, and he could be doing this with an 8 a lot of the time, so I do make the call, and we are good. He has a random bluff, queen jack of diamonds, so we end up scooping that pot. This is a hand I played at 1-2 stakes at Shuffle 5-1-2 in Austin, Texas. In this hand, the straddle was on, and I raised in the cutoff to $20, and I got called by the button and the big blind. The flop comes gin for us. It comes ace queen 6 rainbow, so when it checks to me, I bet 15 since I have this board completely locked up. I probably should be going a little bit larger here, but regardless, I go 15 and both players call. At this point, I'm just hoping to fade Broadway cards, but the turn comes a king and brings in a heart draw as well. So when it checks to me, I'm torn in this spot, as they do have a lot of jack 10s in their range that come in here, but I decide to go for value and try to get value from an ace or a heart draw here. I bet 55 and only the button calls. The river comes the 9 of spades, which is a brick, and at this point I decide to check because I think my opponent's range is going to be weighted towards misdraws that want to bluff, or the super nuts like jack 10 that's obviously going to go for value, and I don't want to get raised right here. So I check, and when he bets 100, I actually think I can get away here. This player's not taking too many bluffs, but I don't really know him that well, but he doesn't seem like the type that's going to make a big bluff here. But at the end of the day, I'm getting a pretty good price, and I have a strong hand, so I do flick in the call, and he shows us jack 10, and we lose this pot.
Okay, let's jump into a poker hand. We are playing 1-2 at Mandalay Bay, and the table has changed a few times. It started to become pretty tight, so I've been loosening up, and I look down at 7 deuce of diamonds under the gun. Now my plan is to raise pre-flop and have everyone fold out like they've been doing and show the bluff just with 7 deuce, just trying to get some action later. But to my surprise, when I make it $13, I get 4 callers. So we go to a flop. The king of spades, the 7 of hearts, the 7 of clubs. We are loving it. The big blind checks to me. Now, I make it $23, about third pot, hoping someone can call with a king. And to my surprise, it folds all the way around. I'm actually hating that I bet it there because I had so much of the board. But, you know, I was really happy because I was going to c-bet anyways, whether or not I binked it like I did. But, you know, I wish someone could have called whenever I flop trips. So it's one of those where me trying to get a little bit loose and opening up the table really paid off a little bit for me, and we had a nice little win with that hand.
Bo Nix is a good quarterback prospect in the NFL draft for this season. He's coming out of Oregon, where he just threw for 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this season. Nix is 6'3" and has good ability as a runner and thrower. He rushed for 1,613 yards and 38 touchdowns as a quarterback in college. He gets the ball out quick and is very good at moving the chains. A common critique of his game is that he too often checks the ball down, but I do think he has the arm strength to make big plays even at the next level, so I don't think his arm is a weakness in his game. He just needs to get through his reads a little bit faster. His game still needs some work at the next level, especially against pressure, but I think overall he's a very solid prospect. He should probably go in the early second round of the draft, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team like the Broncos fall in love with him and take him in the first round, as I think he would be a great fit in Sean Payton's system. Spencer Rattler is an intriguing prospect in the NFL draft this season. Coming out of high school, he was a 5-star recruit, but he struggled early on in his career at Oklahoma and ended up transferring to South Carolina. While he didn't put up huge stats, he showcased the ability to make big-time throws that will translate to the next level. He also showed good ability as a scrambler and as a runner as well. He needs to work on his consistency at the next level and play out his A game more often if he wants to become a big-time player in the NFL. But I think if he gets into the right situation, he could take a little bit of time to develop into a good starter down the road in the NFL. And I think that he should probably be a third-round pick. Maybe he'll get into the late second round or go in the early fourth, but I think a third-round grade is right for him.
You want that plastic working come Miller time?
You know, I can foresee a lot of possible outcomes to this thing, and not a single one of them involves Miller time.
PMA. Positive mental attitude.
Welcome to Miller Time. I'm Kevin Miller with the Degenerate Gambling Life, and this week's episode I'm going to be discussing 5 players in Dynasty under the age of 30 you should be looking to sell and what you should be looking to get back for them in terms of draft picks. Last week I did 5 guys over the age of 30, and it kind of sparked the idea to think about what players are currently not really towards the end of their career, but would make for a good sell based on what you can get for them at this point in time. So without further ado, here we go. At number 5, Seattle Seahawks running back Ken Walker. He is entering his 3rd year in the league and has been a top 20 back both years. I do like the talents. As you're going to see on this list, these are guys that are good players. I just think the amount you can get for them if you trade them away is greater than the profit you'd get if you just kept them and put them in your roster. They do have a new coach, Mike McCarthy, and he is defensive and run heavy oriented. So it could benefit Walker, but having Charbonnet breathing down his neck and taking a ton of the passing game away really limits his upside. I'd be looking to sell Ken Walker, and if I can get a first-round pick and a second-round pick for him, I would pull the trigger. Or even an early first-round pick this year, a top 2 or 3 overall pick, I would trade away Ken Walker. At number 4, Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle. Another player I love, especially his touchdown celebration is one of my favorites to do. I'm just concerned that he's buried behind Tyreek Hill for at least the next 2 years, which will limit his upside in fantasy. And if you really need everything to go right on Miami for both their receivers to be fantasy relevant every single week. I think you can get a lot for him because he's a young player. He's ranked as a top 30 overall Dynasty player. I'd be looking to move him for 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and something else thrown in there. At number 3, running back on the Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs. He's entering his 6th year in the league, which for me, that kind of means he's hit criteria. You've had a good run with him if you've had him on your team most of the years, but it's time to offload these guys before they tank in value and production. I would be looking to move Josh Jacobs, and I'd probably want something similar to what I've already mentioned for the other 2 guys. A first-round pick and maybe a third-round pick to go with it, or a first and second-round pick would also be great for Josh Jacobs. Number 2, running back Saquon Barkley. There's rumors he's going to end up playing, who knows where he ends up playing this season. That alone could hurt his value, but he's entering his 7th year in the league, and it's time to move on from Saquon Barkley. He was the biggest running back prospect since Adrian Peterson when he came into the league. He's been as advertised when he's been healthy, but you want to get these guys off your squad before they have the Nick Chubb season that he had last year, and their value takes a big hit. I'd be looking to move Saquon Barkley for a single first-round pick. If I could get 2 seconds and a third, I'd probably pull the trigger as well, but don't sell too easily. And finally, the number 1 player I'd be looking to sell in Dynasty under the age of 30 is... Really? You got this one? That's right. It is Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase. Most fantasy Dynasty ranking sites have him ranked 2nd or 3rd overall. So there's obviously a lot of perceived value with Jamar Chase, but when you're looking at his production in the league, he's only had 1 season that's really been a good season. He is an elite talent, but he's kind of hit or miss, kind of a home run play, and this upcoming season he'll probably be a first-round pick in fantasy. I'm telling you right now, avoid him like the plague. If the boomer bust is not what you want from the best player on your fantasy team. You need someone every week getting you 15 plus points, not 5 or 25. It's not how you're going to win in fantasy. And I'm nervous that the Bengals are going to implode, kind of like they did this year. Although this year, I'll let them off the hook because it's mainly based on injuries. But Jamar Chase is that player up top the fantasy dynasty rankings that I do not believe deserves to be there. And I'd be looking to sell him for the maximum value. You need to find the right partner on this one. Don't just offload him because I'm telling you to. I'd be looking for 2 first-round picks and then some. Maybe even 3 first-round picks. If you can find a Bengals fan or someone who thinks he's as good as Justin Jefferson in fantasy football, sell him for 3 first-round picks, sleep like a baby, and message me later and say thank you, Kevin. Those are the players I'd be looking to give up in Dynasty. Comment if you have any questions. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. It's free and helps us out. We appreciate all you do. See you next time.
Soccer hooligans.
Welcome to the Degenerate Gambling Life's Added Minutes. I'm Jordan Tennis. The Carabao Cup final has come and gone, and that's all we really need to say about that. Anyways, Major League Soccer had their opening week, which started in Fort Lauderdale when Real Salt Lake visited Inter Miami. It was a comfortable win for Messi and company, seeing the game out 2-0 to begin their season's quest for the MLS Cup, as they are the odds-on favorites. Elsewhere in MLS, Columbus Crew started their title defense off on the right foot. The right foot of last season's MLS Cup MVP, Chucho Hernandez, who scored the game's only goal in the 27th minute. Dallas and Minnesota both scored in extra time to win their opening matches 2-1, while Chicago scored with 8 minutes left, looking like they would take all 3 points from their opening match before a 93rd minute goal by Philadelphia's Daniel Gazdag secured a tie and a point for Philly. There's not much else happening in the world of soccer this week. Wait, what? You want me to talk about? Fine, I'll let you Scousers have your minute in the sun. I used to say, it's great to win the Carabao Cup, but losing it is no big deal. But that was when Chelsea were battling for other trophies every year. Now that we're a mid-table club, I'm not going to lie, this one kind of hurts. It was our best chance for silverware this season, but now we have to go all in on the FA Cup. The final at Wembley was a good game. Each team saw VAR disallow a goal, and also the woodwork was rattled. Not much was called wrong by the refs, although the Reds will feel hard done by a challenge from Caicedo in the 23rd minute, which saw Gravenberch go off injured. Personally, I think the correct no call was made. An unfortunate coming together between Caicedo and Gravenberch, but Caicedo knew nothing of it, and no intent was there. Chelsea had Liverpool on the back foot coming down to the wire in regulation and spurred some good chances, but when extra time started, it was all Liverpool. Chelsea seemed to have lost the fight in extra time, and Liverpool took advantage, specifically on a corner kick when none other than captain Virgil van Dijk, who looked like he was taller than every Chelsea player by about 3 feet, deflected a cross into the back of the net off of his head. With only a few minutes remaining, it was enough to grant Liverpool their first trophy of the season and a fantastic start to the end of Jurgen Klopp's tenure as manager. I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Added Minutes, and I hope you have a great week.
All right, fantasy basketball time. This week, I'm actually going to talk about 2 players that I have suggested for you buy in the past and recommend them to you again. First up, we have Herbert Jones, the New Orleans Pelicans. He gives you position flexibility at small forward and power forward. He's available in 38% of leagues. The last 2 weeks has been player 9, and for the last month, player 53. So it's someone that's been roughly a top 50 player for the last month is available, and over 38% of leagues, man, you need to grab him. He's going to give you 15 points, 3 3-pointers made, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. So please go out there and pick up this player. Next, just like last time whenever I talked about him, I'm going to apologize for butchering his name. Ayo Dosunmu, Chicago Bulls. He gives you shooting guard and small forward flexibility. We love when we can play him at the guard or the forward position. He's available in 50% of leagues. For the last 2 weeks, he's player 44. For last month, player 64. Like when we mentioned about Zach LaVine either being traded or he got hurt, he has stepped up and given tremendous value. He's going to give you 19 points, 3 3-pointers made, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. So if you haven't yet, listen to me this time and go out and pick up Herbert Jones, and I'm not even going to try to say it again. We'll go with Ayo, the first name of the Chicago Bulls. Next up, we have fantasy baseballs coming up. If you would like to play in a league with us, please leave a comment and I will set up a Degenerate Gambling Life Fantasy Baseball League. It should be fun. Let us know. Finally, we have our next meetup game. We will be in Shreveport, April 5th through the 7th. We're going to do a meetup game at the Horseshoe Casino at 1 p.m. All right, so if you'd like to come play a little poker with us, talk some fancy sports, please come out and meet us at the Horseshoe at Shreveport. Again, that'll be April 6th at 1 p.m. We have different merch. If you like, comment, let us know. If there's something you'd like for us to talk about or discuss, please let us know in the comments. If you haven't yet, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.